إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكس في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلية لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم. سورة المباركة الفاتحة.
One mic or two mic? Two mics? One is fine. One. Wait, I tell you. Go.
Salawat.
If no one else will mourn you with me, I'll mourn you alone. Your broken ribs and your burning home. All this love and so less of you is known. The tablet and the pen attest to you. The secret of secrets rested with you. Ayah after ayah came in your name. Sallallahu alayki ya Fatima. 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 How did the door from heaven fall victim unto the flames? How did they look at you with no shame? How they raised their voice and said your name. Alhamdulillah as much as the rain. Alhamdulillah for my every pain. Alhamdulillah you gave me Hussein. Alhamdulillah you gave me Hussein. Sallallahu alayki ya Fatima. Sallallahu alayki ya Fatima. Sallallahu alayki ya Fatima. Sallallahu alayki ya Fatima. His silence spoke. Indeed we gave you the Kauthar so. Pray to God and sacrifice a soul. Surely the barren one is your foe. The rope to Allah is taken in ropes. The hope for the hopeless struggles to hope. His cheeks with tears only twice they were soaked in sajda, and when you washed your beloved. Sallallahu alayki ya Fatima. Sallallahu alayki ya Fatima. Sallallahu alayki ya Fatima. Sallallahu alayki ya Fatima. In the corner, weeping when you saw her broken ribs. How will you tell your children this? How will you stand up again and pray? Did you bury her on Medina's plains? Did you bury her Bain al-Haramain? Did you bury her on Medina's plains? Did you bury her Bainul Haramain? Haydar replies, holding back heavy pains. She's buried in the hearts of all the mu'mineen. Sallallahu alayki ya Fatima. Sallallahu alayki ya Fatima. Sallallahu alayki ya Fatima. Sallallahu alayki ya Fatima.
Salawat.
Islamic brothers and sisters, inshallah my daughter is going to be reciting a new surah tonight, surah in Shikak. Barhman wal Muhammad salawat.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. إذا السماء انشقت وأذنت لربها وحقت وإذا الأرض مدت وألقت ما فيها وتخلت وأذنت لربها وحقت يا أيها الإنسان إنك كادح إلى ربك كدحا فملاقيك فأما من أوتي كتابه بيمينه سوف يحاسب حسابا يسيرا وينقلب إلى أهله مسرورا وأما من أوتي كتابه وراء ظهره فسوف يدعو ثبورا ويصلى سعيرا إنه كان في أهله مسرورا ظن أن لن يحور بلى إنه ظن أن لن يحور بلى إن ربه كان به بصيرا فلا أقسم بالشفق وما وسق والقمر إذا اتسق لتركبن طبقا عن طبق فما لهم لا يؤمنون وإذا قرئ عليهم القرآن لا يسجدون بل الذين كفروا يكذبون والله عما يؤمنون فبشرهم بعذاب أليم إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات هم أجر غير ممنون. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
और मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सलवात.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. محمد وعلى محمد صلوات. दर जल चुका है यूसुफ़े ज़हरा कब आओगे ज़हरा सदाएं देती है मौला कब आओगे ज़ख्मी है फातिमा टूटी है पसलियाँ या साहिब ज़मां या साहिब ज़मां देकर सदाए आपको देकर सदाए आपको लेती है हिचकियाँ या साहिब صاحب زمان یا صاحب زمان پہلو شکست ہو گیا جلدی سنبھال لو بنت نبی کو آگ سے آ کر نکال لو مولا تمہاری دادی ہے مولا تمہاری دادی ہے شولوں کے درمیان یا صاحب زمان یا صاحب زمان دیکھا تو ہوگا ظلم نگاہ امام سے بیٹوں کے سامنے کبھی لوگوں کے سامنے کھائے نبی کی بیٹی نے درے کہاں کہاں یا صاحب زمان یا صاحب زمان افضل جو بوتراب ہے کل کائنات سے خیبر کو فتح کس نے کیا اپنے ہاتھ سے وہ شیر کبریا کہاں وہ شیر کبریا کہاں اور رسیاں کہاں یا صاحب زمان یا صاحب زمان ہے مادر کا چہرہ تکتی ہے حسرت سے بار بار زینب کے ساتھ ساتھ ہے کلثوم بے قرار چہرے پہ نیل دیکھ کے چہرے پہ نیل دیکھ کے روتی ہے بیٹیاں یا صاحب زمان یا صاحب زمان اے وارث رسول قیامت پھر آ گئی غیبت میں تم ہو اور شہادت پھر آ گئی آ کر سنا تو دو ہمیں آ کر سنا تو دو ہمیں غربت کی داستان یا صاحب زمان یا صاحب زمان ایام پرصداری زہرا کا واسطہ کرتے ہیں کم میر تکلم یہ سب دعا ماتم کرے بقیہ میں ہر ماتمی جوان یا صاحب زمان یا صاحب زمان زخمی ہے فاطمہ ٹوٹی ہے پسلیاں یا صاحب زمان یا صاحب زمان محمد وآل محمد صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. Tonight, Surah Yasin was recited for the Ithal al-Sawab of the marhumeens that are displayed on the screen. We also remember the 5 individuals who lost their lives during the shooting incident that occurred 60 years ago at the Zanzibar Tazia Mosque on the night of 13th Jamadil Awal 1964. Let us recite Surah Fatiha for them as well. Surah Al-Fatiha. And just to mention the names of the 5 individuals from that shooting, there were Marhum Sayyid Abdul Muttalib Hashim, Marhum Sayyid Ali Asghar Hussain, Marhum Haji Muhammad Ansar, Marhum Haji Abdul Hussain Tijani, and Marhum Ghulam Abbas Qasim Ali. Some reminders about upcoming programs. Tomorrow, Saturday, there is the special meeting that is scheduled to start at 3:30 p.m., the details of which were sent in the WhatsApp feed. On Sunday, at 1:30 p.m., there is a workshop for Sijni's seniors, both ladies and gents, entitled Maximize Wealth and Minimize Taxes, led by Brother Ali Hirji. The details of that are in the WhatsApp feed as well, but topics include asset protection strategies for commonly held assets, introduction to trust used for asset protection and estate planning, and tax minimization strategies for common sources of income. Lastly, let us recite the ayah of Amma Yujibu for all those brothers and sisters who are in need of our prayers. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء 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 اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. With a loud salawat, let us welcome Sheikh Bilal. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. और हबीब खुदा खत्म अंबिया बआवाज़ बुलंद सलवात.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. الحمد لله رب العالمين ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين واللعنة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد فقد قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الحكيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فلما زاغوا أزاغ الله قلوبهم والله لا يهدي القوم الفاسقين. آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Your second salawat for love of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. اللهم صل على محمد. And your loudest salawat as condolences to the master of our time, Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. أعظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بذكرنا المسائب آل Muhammad. May Allah increase in our reward for the commemoration of the difficulties of Ali Muhammad. Tonight marks the time period of 75 days after the Shahadat of our Holy Prophet, which is one of the 2 dates that is famously associated with the Shahadat of the daughter of the Holy Prophet. The 75th and the 95th are the 2 time periods that are connected with this Shahadat. And in historical context, the reason for that is of the ishtibah, of the doubt in how information would be written. In old Arabic literature, they wouldn't include the nuqat, the dots, and it would be something that's mafhum, understood based upon the context of the word. And in the Arabic language, khamsa sab'een, sin ba ayn ya noon, and khamsa tis'een, ta sin ayn ya noon, without the dots look identical. So it created doubt in the mind of people of what the actual date was. Was it 75 days? Was it 95 days? And the tradition was established that both would be commemorated in the Shahadat of Sayyidah Zahra. What's interesting is that the commemoration of the Shahadat of Sayyidah Zahra, whether it's 75 days, 95 days, or 40 days, which is the initial riwayah that's mentioned, the mas'ala is not a tariqi mas'ala. Meaning this isn't a historical debate that happens. Rather, the Shahadat and the life of Sayyidah Zahra are not a historical discussion. They are an aqaidi discussion. They're a discussion about the philosophy and the fundamental of faith. Let me explain. There are certain things in life that on their face appear to be materialistic worldly affairs. But their reality and the essence of that problem has less to do with what's in front of you and more to do with your aqeedah and the establishment of your aqeedah. The preservation of your aqeedah sometimes, the certainty of your aqeedah. And when I say aqeedah, we mean that my faith is correct. One of the places where this kind of comes up as a conversation to understand the importance of the aqeedah and the preservation of aqeedah, and that certain issues in life will impact this, is, for example, the concept of friendship. What I mean by that? When it comes to the concept of friendships that we hold in our life, we think that these are pleasurable activities, that this is something fun, enjoyable to have good friends, and this is something that everybody should do, and anyone can hold this position. This is a good position to have and good thing to have in your life. But truthfully, the friendships that we base are associated with our character and are associated with our philosophy of faith. And that friendship impacts the philosophy of faith, and therefore you have to be very careful who you let into that circle of friendship. In the Quran, there's a discussion where Allah mentions, it says, وَيَوْمَ ظَالِمُ لعنة الله عليه صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. If you ever find yourself you're trying to say something good and it stops you, it's shaitan, and curse him, and Allah will يوم يعض الظالم على يديه. And Allah mentions in the Quran that on the day of judgment, the one who is the oppressor will bite at his hands out of frustration. يا ليتني لم أتخذ فلانا خليلا. That I wish that I had not taken so and so as my friend. Meaning that the person who's suffering on the day of judgment will look at his suffering and be so frustrated by his situation, he'll come to the realization that that friend that I took lightly is the one who took me away from guidance. لَقَدْ أَضَلَّنِي بَعْدَ إِذْ جَاءَنِ السَّبِيلَ. He distracted me, misguided me, took me to dhalal, took me to misguidance when I was on a path of achieving something good with Allah. Meaning the concept of friendship, while it seems apparently innocuous, it seems something that it's a day-to-day issue and we can take anyone and make them our friend and anyone can be my friend. The truth of the issue of friendship is that it impacts your aqeedah, it impacts your philosophy of faith and what you'll believe and what you'll do in your life. Which is why we have the statement from our Holy Prophet Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Al-mar'u ala din khalilih. That a man is on the religion of his friends. So be careful who you befriend, because whoever those friends are will impact your faith and you will follow their religion. This doesn't mean that, for example, al-dhahir, on the apparent, that suddenly if my friends are, for example, of a non-Islamic religion, that I too will profess that faith. No, I may continue to profess La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. I may continue to profess Aliyan Waliullah. I may continue to have this statement on my lips. But the religion is just as much what I profess as what you can see from me. What my character represents, what my behavior shows, what my environment demonstrates. And if it so happens that I may be saying La ilaha illallah, but there is no difference from me and the one who is a mushrik, the one who is a kafir, that my appearance, my character is that of kufr. This is what the Prophet means, that al-mar'u ala dini khalili. Which is why this concept of friendship isn't a light matter, because this friendship impacts our aqeedah. The extreme of this example of impacting the aqidah is the concept of even marriage. That we look at marriage and we say that as long as my faith is preserved, who cares who my spouse is? I can marry someone who doesn't share my aqidah, who doesn't share my philosophy, who doesn't understand my religion. Yeah. But what, your spouse isn't your friend? Your spouse isn't someone who influences your lifestyle? Your spouse doesn't make you change all these directions? Which is why the conversation of looking at these material elements that look very simple and straightforward, like the conversation about friendship, it requires effort and discussion to educate and to think about who have I associated my character with and what is it doing to my faith and iman. Is it causing a break between what I say my faith is and how I enact my faith? Is it making it difficult for my words and my actions to match? And should I find myself in that situation, I should come to the conclusion that I need to change this relationship and responsibility. Similar to the concept of saying and looking at something simple as marriage and something as simple as, for example, friendship, that in our culture it's taught that as an independent individual, I should be able to do whatever I want to as long as my faith is my faith and I can be friends with anyone. What's the problem? No, it has an impact, it has a bearing. Similarly, there are certain of these personalities and descriptions in history that people will try to distract you and say, "Hada tarikh, this is history. This has nothing to do with anything." But no, it has a significance on the aqidah and the philosophy of the faith that we possess. And if we don't invest the time to understand that, our aqidah will become disrupted. One of the key figures in history who is tied to aqidah, who is the fundamental of aqidah, is this daughter of Rasulullah, Fatimiyyah az-Zahra, salamullahi alayha. There are those in Islamic society and those who are historians who look at it and say this is just one person in history whose life is insignificant in comparison to the scope of history in its entirety. Why? We profess that her life was not more than 18 years. The reality of how we look at history may be that it's between 18 years, 23 years, or 28 years based upon the narrations of history of her birth and where her birth could have possibly happened. And there are 3 points to where her birth could have taken place. Either one, that it takes place 5 years before Ba'tha, which would make her 28 at her shahadat, at the time of Ba'tha, which would make her age about 23 years of age, or the third, which is the most common amongst us, which is 5 years after Ba'tha, meaning after the Annunciation of the Prophet, which would put her at the age of 18 years of age, at the time of her shahadat. The argument comes and says, "Hada tarikh, this is history." Yeah, it's nice to know, but what does it have to do with us today? What does it have to do with anything? But the truth is that the knowledge of Sayyidah Zahra and understanding of who this person is and what her role is central to ensuring that our aqidah, our philosophy of faith, is truly aligned with the message of Rasulullah. That our understanding of what the Prophet brought to us is tied to this personality. The description of how we understand this and the significance of who this person is that this person, while they may be unknown in this earth as having a life of 18 years, and what's the significance of 18 years in this earth? There were many who came and went at 18 years of age. Who knows who came and who went? But when we look back at even the birth of this lady, we begin to realize that she was someone whose presence was something that the Prophet explained as being significant to the religion of Islam. Now understand something. There are certain points that you can gain knowledge through intellect. There are certain things you can gain knowledge about through study. That the exposure to information will give you a structure and appreciation for a concept. There are other things that don't work like this. That the only way to learn about them and know about them is through that which is given to us by the Ahlul Bayt and is given to us by Allah. When it comes to وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ قُلِ الرُّوحِ مِنْ عَمْرِ رَبِّي وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. For example, the spirit. The spirit is not something that if I can sit here and scientifically prove its existence and presence, that I can scientifically approach the subject. No. The spirit, as we know, is something that materially within the five senses cannot be contained, it cannot be discussed, it can never be found, and it can't be analyzed by the scientific process because it doesn't exist within the realm of the material. So which is why in the Quran it says that they will ask you, Ya Rasulullah, when they ask you about the spirit, say the spirit comes from the command of Allah, and we did not give you knowledge about it except a little bit. Meaning the only way that you can learn and understand about this spirit is not through your intellect and not through sciences and not through the access to additional resources that will give you exposure to this, but the only way you're going to appreciate and understand the spirit is by what Allah tells you and explains to you about this. Similar to the concept of the spirit, this personality of Sayyidah Zahra is something that cannot be understood except through the riwayah and teaching of Ahlul Bayt. That if you look at her from a material aspect, there's no value to this. There's no discussion point to it. And what's the point to it? But if we look back at the riwayah and we look back at the introduction that the Ahlul Bayt make to Sayyidah Zahra, we begin to understand the uniqueness of this personality and the unquestionable importance of this person. One of the authentic narrations that comes to us from our sixth Imam, who narrates from his father, who narrates from his father, who narrates from his father, who narrates from Imam Ali, who narrates from Rasulullah, who narrates from Jibreel, who narrates from Allah directly, is about this Sayyidah Zahra. In the Madhmoon, and inshallah near the end we'll go through this riwayah in detail, is that to have an understanding of who this person is, understand that her birth comes from the fruit of heaven that is given from Allah by Jibreel to Rasulullah. Look at who's the one who is gifting something. Look at who the one is receiving the gift. Look at the one who is the wasila of taking the gift and bringing the conclusion. And what is the gift? That you find Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, Allah the Creator, is gifting something to rahmatul lil alameen, to the best of creation, through the wasila, not through an unnamed wasila that here this is a gift for you ya Rasulullah, but through that one that he gave the conveyance of wahy and the representation of Allah's religion in the heavens through this Jibreel, is given the importance of bringing a gift of the fruits of heaven to Rasulullah. This is a description of saying that even her creation is something that is not about normal means, and that this gift is the source from which Sayyidah Zahra comes to us. One of the mistakes that happens is that this gift, when this narration is discussed, some people will discuss and say that this was the nur of Zahra, this was the nur of Sayyidah Zahra that was given to Rasulullah for her birth. No. Rather, when we take a look and we see what is a human being born from, they are born from the consumption of food in this earth. The body is made by the consumption of material that exists in this earth. That fruit of heaven was for the creation of the body of Sayyidah Zahra, that she is made from the material of heaven that is sent expressly to bring this person into earth. And it's given with the instruction that, Ya Rasulullah, Allah is blessing you that through this wasila will come to you a daughter who will be known as Fatima in this earth and will be known as Mansura in the heavens. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The conversation that comes after this is Rasulullah asks, he says, لِمَاذَا سُمِّيَتْ فَاطِمَةَ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَمَنْصُورَ فِي السَّمَاءِ? Why is it that this daughter of mine should be named Fatima on this earth and Mansura in the heavens? We mentioned this the other night in the discussion round of Wiladat of Sayyidah Zainab, that when Allah gives a name, Allah gives a name in perfection of the attribute a person possesses, not the way we name someone. When we name somebody with the hope that they will possess a particular attribute. But when Allah names someone, it's because they are the absolute epitome of that attribute. Rasulullah asking why her name is Fatima, understand something, the name Fatima was not initiated by Sayyidah Zahra. There were others named Fatima. For example, Fatima bint Asad, the mother of Amir al-Mu'mineen. The name Fatima was present. Rasulullah asking the question, why Fatima? Why this name? Is the significance of demonstrating that this is not something done. Allah does not do something in accident or in foolishness, but that there is a perfection to it. And this is what tells us that the life and association of this lady is associated with our aqidah, because of the answer that he receives from Jibreel. لأنها فاطمة شيعتها من النار وفتم أعداؤها من حبها. Two statements of understanding this lady and why that this name is given to her, an attribute is given to her, and why this ties back to understanding, appreciating, and building a connection with this lady is an association of our philosophy of faith that we can't be absent from this. And Jibreel answers, he says, Ya Rasulullah, Allah has given her this name because she will be the one who separates her Shia from the fire of hell. Fatima shi'atuha anin nar. This statement has a few interesting points in it. One, the separation, that she is the one who has the right to separate those who are the Shia. And shi'atuha, this ha is the dhamir that returns back to Sayyidah Zahra herself. To say that Sayyidah Zahra is someone who possesses those who are her Shia. The same way today, we can talk about Shia bishakl al-am. Bishakl al-am, by a general term, Shia refers to someone who is a follower, and we use it to describe those who follow the Ahlul Bayt. But then within the attribute of the followers of the Ahlul Bayt, there are those who are Shi'at Ali, Shi'at al-Husayn. And the same way in this attribute, there is Shi'at al-Zahra, meaning those who understand and appreciate her status are the ones that she will have the right to intercede over to separate them from the fire of hell. This is part one of the association. But then Jibreel continues and he goes further and he says, وَفُتِمُوا أَعْدَاؤُهَا عَنْ حُبِّهَا. And that futimu comes from, that is mabni majhul, that there is someone who will remove from her and from her presence those who have animosity towards her from her love. This statement of how Allah structures this is He takes upon Himself the responsibility that if there is someone who keeps animosity towards this lady, I will remove her love from their heart and I will separate them from her. This concept that Allah separates someone from a path, why would Allah make it that someone, for example, is separated from guidance and from something that is good? If it is that Sayyidah Zahra is the one who will separate people from the fire of hell, why should Allah keep anybody away from her? Why should it happen that someone is not entitled to having that access? And why is Allah being the one who decides that this person does not have the right to receive this intercession, does not have the right to receive this assistance for themselves? To understand this, we take a look and we see that why would Allah remove anyone's guidance? And that's where we look at the verse that we began our discussion for Surah Saf, the chapter 61, verse number 5, in which Allah makes a statement. He says, فَلَمَّا زَاغُوا أَزَاغَ اللَّهُ قُلُوبَهُمْ وَاللَّهُ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمُ الْفَاسِقِينَ. That Allah in this verse talks about the idea of one manzaga. Manzaga is the one who turns away from and refuses the path of Allah. Allah says that when they go ahead and they turn away from my path, فَلَمَّا زَاغُوا أَزَاغَ اللَّهُ قُلُوبَهُمْ. That when they turn away from Allah, Allah then turns their hearts away from the path of guidance. وَاللَّهُ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمُ الْفَاسِقِينَ. And Allah does not guide those who are the disobedient ones, the ones who sin against Allah. This verse and this description is describing a condition that Allah, when He turns someone away, when someone is turned away from the path of guidance, it is not that Allah has a detest for them or Allah has a hatred for them, but rather they are the ones who have initiated the separation from Allah, and as a consequence, Allah takes it and removes the possibility for them to return back because of their separation. This description that Allah includes in the Quran and gives us a description in the Quran is that, have you ever found someone who is the person who is stubborn in their disbelief? That they can say, it can never happen that I will believe, I will never come to guidance. Allah is saying that I have turned them away because they turned away from me, that now they can't find their way back. In a similar concept, when we look and we see this description, وَفُتِمَ أَعْدَاؤُهَا عَنْ حُبِّهَا. Allah is giving a description saying that I am the one who has separated from her and from the ability to love her those who held animosity towards her. Those who held hatred and were her enemies, they were separated from this mercy that she possesses. This entire conversation is incredibly interesting. How could it be that someone had animosity towards her? One description comes to describe the state and says that this describes alim al-arwah. That in alim al-arwah, before Allah created us, each of us made the agreement that we would worship Allah and follow His instruction. And thus we were created as human beings. This discussion about our creation of human beings and the entire discussion of the fact that we agreed to this creation, one of the stories behind this is that which is associated with Hajar al-Aswad. And Hajar al-Aswad, the black stone that today when we go to the Kaaba, and may Allah give us all tawfiq to go to the Kaaba, that stone is the witness against us that in alim al-arwah, each and every single human being, Allah asked us, I shall create you, will you worship me? Each one swore, each one of us swore, every human being on this earth, all 8 billion of us at this point in time, and all those who came before us, swore that, Ya Allah, if you give me the position of Ashraf al-Makhluqat, I will worship you. And Allah kept an angel there who said, do you bear witness that this man has made this commitment to me? And that angel recorded every single human being to bear witness to this effect. Then when Allah sent insan down to this earth, He sent the proof against us down to this earth as well too, and revealed that angel and sent him down in the shape of this Hajar al-Aswad, this heavenly stone, into this earth. So that us and the witness against us are present on the same earth together. Which is why when every believer and every mu'min goes to the Kaaba, we go and we pay respect to Hajar al-Aswad, the wanting to kiss this heavenly stone, wanting to associate with this, is the fact that this is the one who will bear witness against me. So I come and I pay respects to him so that it knows that I gave my witness before I was born, and that I fulfilled my promise, that I came here in the ibadat of Allah, I came here in the worship of Allah, I came here because Allah commanded me to. Therefore, O Malik, O angel, bear witness that I have come to fulfill that oath and I am present here. And this is ma'ruf, ma'kul. It's accepted in all of us that we agree that this is the reality, that is the witness against us on the Day of Judgment, that we have all made this commitment. In that same sense, there were those who, when they were approached with the wilaya of these Ahlul Bayt before they were born, some accepted immediately, and in their love came the love, in their heart came the love of Ahlul Bayt. In them came this desire to sit in their mansion. In them came the tears in our eyes for the love of these personalities. There were those who abstained and delayed in answering because of their confusion, and there were those who outright refused. That there were those who were born with the intention that they would have this dislike and this distaste, and from that aspect, Allah separates them from the love of Ahlul Bayt because of the commitment that they made from the beginning, that we have nothing to do with them. Others come and say that no, there are actions that society commits in this life, and that those actions are the ones that then turn us into the nawasib and those who have hatred for these personalities and separates us from them. Looking at our affairs in this world, there are those who are ignorant, who don't know better, who don't have an affiliation, who are ignorant of this fact, and one who is unknowledgeable and has no knowledge of these affairs can be forgiven for the fact that they never attached themselves. But there are others who intentionally will abstain and will intentionally hide the truth because of the self-interest and that nafs and the desire that they have, that by the admittance of the right of this one, I will lose my authority. So what happens? They intentionally hide from the truth. They intentionally hide from the status of Allah, because their nafs pushes them away from the truth. That the admittance of what I believed and what I thought and what is reality now, when they conflict, I have two options. Either humble myself and admit I was wrong, I didn't know, I was missing information, or two, become obstinate, refuse to accept. Say, no, I don't accept, I don't believe. No, I can believe another source. And belie the truth in the interest of protecting my ego and protecting my status. And this causes us to then be those who turned away from the path of Allah, and therefore Allah زَاغَ اللَّهَ قُلُوبَهُمْ, Allah turned our hearts away from this path. In the same sense, it's possible for those who are فُتِمُوا أَعْدَاءَهَا عَنْ حُبِّهَا, that those who Allah is the one that is turning away from her love and turning away from her support and her assistance, are those who bear that animosity or refuse to accept the superiority of her status, who refuse to acknowledge that she has any significance in history or any significance in the religion of Islam. And when that happens, they are the ones who get removed from this process of support and receiving her assistance. And the azamat of her assistance is not that, for example, if you don't like her, you're indifferent. No, Fatimah shi'atuha an-nar, that she is the one who will be the source of removing and protecting those who follow her from the fire and the punishment of hell. This is not a little status. This is a great and azim status that Allah describes even from the inception of the cause of her presence. Now look and understand that till today, why was this grave hidden from us? Why is this personality not discussed amongst us? It's because those who had animosity towards her wanted to hide and bury the issue. So Allah separated them from her that they can't come back to her and find her wasila. They can't be connected to her and attached to her. And which brings the other side of the point that those who are attached to her, that even though apparently in front of us there is no grave, there is no long history of events, there is no detailed account of all the attributes of the days and nights and how they were spent, that the effect is that we need to be as sincerely attached to her such that Allah does not separate us from her. This is why the discussion around Sayyidah Zahra is a discussion around aqa'id, is a discussion around the philosophy of faith, that if you separate from this personality, you've separated from a piece that's significant to the message of Islam. And that her creation and her position and her description, that when we see that the description of our Holy Prophet Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam describes about Sayyidah Zahra that when she would come, that he would rise from his place. It's not that she came next to him and he stood up. No, if he saw her at the door, the position of Nubuwwat would rise and go to greet her. Is a description of describing the ahmiyat and importance that Nubuwwat is associated with this personality, and don't be separated from her. Don't be one who is that which is indifferent to this personality or is absent from the remembrance of this association. Which is why even amongst the attributes that are associated with Sayyidah Zahra that tell us that she's unlike anyone else is the concept of her title being known as Muhaddatha, that the one to whom Jibreel spoke. That Jibreel takes the time to give her consolation and discussion. This discussion around Muhaddatha and the title of Muhaddatha around Sayyidah Zahra refers to the book that is associated with Sayyidah Zahra, and this discussion around it points to in a few different descriptions. Some come to the aspect of saying that this is that writing and that description that talks about all of the affairs of this earth that happened before the advent of Islam and all of the affairs that will happen until the Day of Judgment. Another interesting riwayah that's mentioned talks about that what was given to Sayyidah Zahra was, remember something, this writing, this book is given to Sayyidah Zahra after the shahadat of her father. And after the shahadat of Rasulullah, when she is in a state of grief at her separation from Rasulullah, that Allah sends Jibreel to comfort her. In the aspect of comforting her, it's said that the conversation Jibreel has is he gives her the fada'il of Rasulullah, the honors and the glory of Rasulullah. And to describe the glory of Rasulullah and the status of Rasulullah, Jibreel begins from the advent of all of creation to show Man kana Muhammadun sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. That you can't describe Rasulullah, who is rahmatul lil alameen, without the description of alameen. That of all of the world that came before, to describe this one who is the mercy to humanity and how he changed humanity, Jibreel begins with the detail of how the impact of this one person began from the beginning. And it says that all of the affairs until Yawmul Qiyamah, that what remained after Rasulullah is how the glory of Rasulullah would remain as long as this creation remained. And to describe that glory of Rasulullah, Jibreel has the detail that every generation, jeel anil jeel, generation after generation, how they would be the reflection of the glory of the attribute of Rahmatul lil Alameen. That this entire book that is given to her, by which she is known as Muhaddatha, that she received as revelation, Amir al-Mu'mineen writes for her, is nothing but the attribute of the glory of the character of her father. Look at that thought perspective. That this is who was the one that was the beloved of Rasulullah, and at his separation, what her character and what difficulty she went through. Which is why the discussion around her is not something that is just about history. She is the cornerstone of understanding the character and the wasila and the attribute of receiving support of Ahlul Bayt. Which is why when she becomes shaheed and she mentions, hide my grave, it's so that no one can accidentally come to her wasila. No one can accidentally, unintentionally come to that grave and say, oh, this is from the history of people, and okay, for the way that they, for example, today when you go inshallah to Baqi and you see them walk through, No one can say, yes, this is the daughter of Rasulullah, and okay, recite a Fatiha here, and that by that Fatiha they receive the benefit of Sayyidah Zahra. No, the only one who can receive the greatness of the status that she possesses and the benefit that she possesses is one who has an understanding of what her affiliation and connection to the Prophet was. How she was the gift to the Prophet that Allah sends directly, and that she is the one who was created from the material of heaven, not from the material of earth. So if this story of the apple, of understanding, and today's conversation is a bit abstract, I realize that, but the point of the conversation is that never take the conversation around Sayyidah Zahra lightly. One who ignores these tariq, one who ignores these opportunities. Why do we preserve all 3 dates? Why do we have more than one series of majalis for this one lady? Is because by ensuring our attachment to her, we ensure our attachment to the true religion of Rasulullah, the true message of Islam. That her affiliation to this faith is not something simple and light that you take a look and you see that, for example, okay, I did it, or no, I didn't do it. If that was sufficient, her grave would have been public for all of the Muslimin to benefit from. It wasn't. So that only the khawas, those who are the special ones who can appreciate what her role in this religion was. Which is why the other name that she's given, that Jibreel describes, and he says that she is Fatima in this earth, and her name is Mansura, the victorious one, the one who receives the help of Allah, who receives the assistance of Allah, that in heaven she is known as Mansura. And that is her title in heaven. The same way that she is a piece of Rasulullah, and Rasulullah is the one who was summiyat fil ardi Muhammad wa summiyat as-sama'a Ahbad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. That Rasulullah is the one who possesses these 2 titles, that he is Muhammad, the one who is worthy of praise in this earth, and he is Ahmad, the one who is greatly praised in the heavens. The same way his daughter is that one who is given these 2 titles and these 2 names. One that describes her in this earth is Fatima, that in this earth where there is the test of reality, that there is good and there is bad, that there has to be a litmus that shows what is good and what is bad. That Allah created the litmus of those who are receiving the entirety of Allah's blessing by creating a delimiter in the experience of Sayyidah Zahra to show that one who attaches is certain of his success and status, and one who separates is the one who has to now go through the difficulty of a greater trial. So on this earth, her being known as the one is the separator, the one who separates her Shia from the fire of hell. And the one who, because of her presence, people are separated from her love, that they cannot be associated with her, is that she creates a delineation in this earth. Hence her name Fatima in this earth, and Mansura, the victorious one in heaven. And this becomes an entire conversation of Limada hiya Mansura. Why is she known as Mansura, the one who is victorious? Some look and describe and say that this concept of being Mansura and being victorious is the one that receives the help from Allah, and that the one who is Mazloom, the one who in the apparent nature of this world is the oppressed, is the one that Allah describes and gives the attribute of being the one who is victorious, to show that Allah is the one behind who brings that victory. Another description that says that truly her status that is known in the heavens, which isn't known here, is the description of saying that she is the one who is the representation of everything that is the glory of Allah. And thus therefore she is the victorious one, that the glory of Allah is embodied in her. And this is why, to try and understand who is this lady, what is the conversation around her, there are a number of riwayat that try to explain this concept. One that again comes from Sudayr al-Sayrafi, who was one of the companions of our 6th Imam, says that when I sat with the 6th Imam, he began to elaborate to me the unique attribute of this lady. And he says that Rasulullah, when he introduces Fatima to Zahra to society, he comes and he says, the Noor of Fatima Allah created before the heavens and the earth. Before anything else was created, before the creation of what we see in the sama and what we see in this earth, the Noor and the Ruh of Sayyidah Zahra was created. Imam Sadiq elaborates further that the people of the time then turned and said, Ya Rasulullah, وَهِيَ لَيْسَ كَانَتْ إِنسِيَّةً, isn't she a human being? Why was this question? The question is very detailed. Because Adam, who is insan, who is our forefather, was created after this earth was created. إِنِّي جَائِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. Meaning insan as it exists comes after this earth. Rasulullah, in giving ma'rifat of who is Sayyidah Zahra, says she was the one whose noor was created before the heavens and the earth. So Ya Ali, that the description of what he's saying is something that boggles the mind of the individual, that he says, isn't she a human being? And he replies and he says, she is the angelic being in human form. هِيَ كَانَتَ الْحَوْرَاء إِنْسِيَّةً. That she is that angelic being that came in human form. The description is that if you were to see an angelic being, what does an angelic being look like? That if there was someone from the heavens that was sent to this earth, they would look like Sayyidah Zahra. And hence her attributes would be unique. And he continues and he says that Fatima is that angelic, Hawra, and seeing, that angelic being in human form. She possesses the attributes of those who are in heaven and what looks like a person or a being of heaven, of how they would be represented on this earth. Allah created her spirit before everything. So they said, then Ya Rasulullah, if there was nothing else, where was her spirit located then? Where did Allah keep this spirit if there was no heavens and earth for her to exist in? And Rasulullah replies that she was in a protected location under the throne of Allah. Imam Sadiq explains further that when they heard this, they said, then what was it that she was nourished by? What was her food in that state, that if she existed in this point? This point is very interesting within itself, that the questioner is asking a question that deserves to be answered. That does the spirit, does a spiritual being have a food and consumption? And it's true. The spirit does have a food and consumption. The same way today, an insan, a human being, one who possesses physical form, our food and consumption is that from this material world that we live in. And what our bodies are made of, there's something that needs to be consumed to keep the body nourished and persistent. In the same sense, the soul, as it's created from the noor of Allah, it too has a nourishment, and it too has a need to be nourished. And Rasulullah replies, and the nourishment of Zahra in that phrase was the hamd and the thana and the tahleel of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This statement of Rasulullah is a description to say that us as human beings, we possess a nourishment of the body, but we also possess a nourishment of the soul, and the ibadat of Allah is the nourishment of the soul that exists within us. That's why we see there's a statement from our second Imam where he says, I wonder about the man who worries about his nourishment while ignoring his nourishment. And they ask him, Ya Rasulullah, what do you mean? Worries about his nourishment while ignoring his nourishment. And the Imam replies, he says he worries about the nourishment of the body and ignores the nourishment of the soul. That this ibadat of Allah is what keeps our souls alive, which keeps us nourished in having that morality and connection to Allah. When we see, for example, the description, Inna salata tanha anil fahshai wal munkar, that it is prayers that keeps you away from indecency and evil. This attribute of the soul being nourished through the worship of Allah, the attribute of the soul, of a healthy soul, is that it wants to keep away from indecency, it wants to keep away from filth and dirt, because it itself is a creation of light. So the protection of that creation of light that exists within me, that noor that exists within me, that is the soul, is something that is attained and an attribute that we develop and we continue to grow as we increase in our worship of Allah. If we ignore and kill the soul, then all that remains is the material, and when only the material remains, it can't separate itself from evil and indecency. It goes down the path of sin and sees nothing wrong with it. It sees that everything that is material is good, and the attaining of that material at any cost is good. Look at the society we live in now. That morality has died. The worship of Allah, as it's dying, we're seeing that society now can't differentiate between evil and sin, and says, what's the difference between evil and sin? Why should I avoid it? It's because the soul is dead. This is where when Rasulullah explains the attribute of Sayyidah Zahra and saying that the soul, what was her when she was a spirit, what was that? That what nourished her? It was the ibadat of Allah. It was the dhikr of Allah and the remembrance of Allah. It's a lesson for those of us who want to ensure that our spirit remains alive, that we do so through the remembrance and the tahmeed and tahleel, the hamd and the dhikr of la ilaha illallah of Allah. And through those remembrances, that soul will remain alive and that goodness will remain alive within us. And this description then continues and says, then what was it that was then created when it was sent down to you, Ya Rasulullah? And this is where the description of that apple comes in. That when Allah wanted to send her down, He sent down the fruit of heaven so that the material by which she would be created was not the material of this earth that is mixed with good and bad, is mixed with that which is positive and negative, that which has been corrupted and changed by humanity and society, but rather Allah sent the fruits of heaven. Why? Because in heaven there is no sin. In heaven there is no abuse. There is no oppression. There is no lying. That Allah made her that pure source, that He sent the material with which she should be made. And then after that it is Allah who reveals the ruh, and Allah sends her nur down to Rasulullah. But when we talk about this fruit of heaven, the discussion is to say that when we say she is hawra and siya, it's that her material was that material, that mawad that was used to create her, that matter that was used to create her, is not of this earth. Not to say that her soul isn't of this earth. No, all of humanity's souls. وَإِذَا نَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحٍ. Allah says, and when I blow my spirit into Adam at the creation of Adam. Meaning even the ruh of Adam, the ruh of every insan is something that is added by Allah anyway. But that ruh of Sayyidah Zahra was something that was created separately and then sent to her in that process. Now understand something, that this description of describing her as Hawra and Siya, that even if her life is of 18 years, what was the significance of her being that angelic being on this earth? Was that she was the demonstration of exactly what it was that Allah desired to see in this earth, so He created a model for it to be established. That when He wanted that nur of nabuwwat and imamat that had been now separated into Amir al-Mu'mineen Rasulullah to be joined, it had to be joined through something that was very pure. Which is why there are attributes of her masa'ib and discussion about what she went through in her shahadat that can't be replicated in humanity. That describe and show that what happened to her is that the difficulty and the abuse of one who is that Allah's most chosen on this earth was abused in a way. How? Have you ever wondered when she describes and she says, and there's a discussion that says that after the shahadat of Rasulullah, her weeping was something that was so painful for humanity that the people of Medina came forward and said, "Oh Ali, tell Zahra to either cry in the day or to cry in the night." Why? Many have wept. Many weep in this world. For an entire city to stand up and oppress one woman because she weeps for her father. Why? Because that crying was not a crying of this earth. She describes herself and she says, it is normal for one who is separated from their beloved, that the longer the separation, the less they cry. But me at the separation of Rasulullah, the one who was the source of goodness on this earth, the longer I am separated from him, the more the tears that come to my eyes. When Amir al-Mu'mineen comes to her and says, "Oh Zahra, they have complained that since Rasulullah has left this world, your weeping disrupts the entire town. That they say either cry in the day or cry in the night." Zahra replies and she says, "Oh Ali, can you not tell them that I am their guest for just a short while? Let me weep for my father, and I will leave them soon enough after this affair." Amir al-Mu'mineen goes and he establishes for her Baytul Azan, the house of sorrows. That daughter of Rasulullah who is now forced by the people not to weep. He says, "Oh Zahra, I will build for you a house behind Baqi, away from the people, so that you may go there and weep." Yet the oppressors were so oppressive that one day when Amir al-Mu'mineen goes to collect Zahra from this house, he had built a hut under the shade of a tree to stop her comfort there. They had gone and they had cut down the tree under which Zahra would sit to take shade and weep for her father, that it was that painful for them. Look upon her masa'ib and you will find that this angelic being was the one who was the defender of wilaya, and the conversation about the role of Zahra is not complete. That defender of wilayah is the one who, when seeing the need to protect imamat in that difficult moment, she stands at the door of her house to prevent the oppressor of attacking the imam. And when she does so, they come and they say that, "Oh Zahra, we don't care if you are in this house." She presents and says that, "I am the daughter of Rasulullah," that they struck her arm in that instance and then proceeded to push the door upon her. They describe and say, "How is she Hawra and Sia?" They said that when that door was pushed and that fire was lit, we saw her pressed between the door and the wall in such a way that her feet were lifted from the ground because of the pressure she was under. In that moment, they said, we heard something that sounded like the breaking of glass. When they asked the Ayyame about this hadith, that what was that sound heard from that door? Yabna Rasulullah, the door was wood. It was on fire, we understand. But why was it that the sound that was heard as if it was glass that was breaking? The Imam, with tears in his eyes, replies and he says, "My mother Zahra was that angelic being in human form. Her bones were those that were made of that of the angelic beings, that when her ribs were crushed, the sound that was produced would be that as if glass was breaking. My mother's ribs were broken in that condition when she was lifted and pressed in that condition." Now understand that when they describe and say that after this moment, Ali ibn Abi Talib rushes to the door, pushes away the enemy, and then is taken and dragged from his house in the street. The status of Zahra is that one. They said in this state of pain, as her infant Muhsin was killed, we did not see Zahra think of herself, but run into the street after Ali ibn Abi Talib. That they say that in this moment we saw that Zahra, when proceeding, Ali would be dragged away from the house because their intention was to do harm. Zahra in her condition would come after them and call out, "Release Ali! Release my husband! Do not put him through this difficulty." They said Mal'un turned and struck Zahra in the streets of Medina, to the extent till the daughter of Rasulullah was forced to say, "I am no longer asking you to let go of Ali. I am asking you not to beat the daughter of Rasulullah in the streets of Medina." In this condition, they took Amir al-Mu'mineen away. They dragged him to the Dar al-Imara in front of the Khalifa. Zahra still proceeded. They said when she approaches the door of the masjid, she raises her hands in dua. They said, "We swear we witnessed when that madloom in that condition, that Hawra and Sia, raised her hands in dua. We saw the walls of the houses of Medina raised high into the sky. She raised her hands and called out, 'If you do not release him, I will pray against you in such a way that these walls will collapse upon you.' They said, we released Ali ibn Abi Talib. In this condition, Ali returns back to Zahra. She is not disclosing her condition. Such is her state that Ali asks her, "Oh Zahra, what is your condition?" She replies, she says, "Oh Ali, if you are okay, then I am okay." They proceed towards the house. Imam Ali says, "I saw Hassan al-Mujtaba, the 7-year-old son, crying as he walked with me through the streets. I asked, 'Oh my son, why do you cry?' He says, 'Father, when they had dragged you away, I saw them strike the face of my mother so hard that it injured her eyes.'" Ali would reply and say that, "This is why when I spoke to your mother, she would not look me in the eye to reply to me." Now understand, when Ali buries Zahra, he replies, "Ya Rasulullah, this amana that you left me, forgive me. Her eye was not injured, her ribs were not broken, her Muhsin was not shaheed." Now understand, when Ali ibn al-Hussein Zainul Abidin is in Sham, and he has an innocent one to bury the way Ali ibn Abi Talib did, he too presents his excuses to his father. "Oh Baba Hussein, forgive me when Sakina wasn't left with me. Her ears were not ripped, her skin was not burned, her face did not bear the marks of Shiva." ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. يا الله بحق فاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها. Ya Allah, with these tears in our eyes, accept this small ibadat from us. Ya Allah, forgive our sins by the sake of these tears. Oh Allah, entitle us to the shafa'ah of Sayyidah Zahra, entitle us to the tawfiq of being attached to this example of the authority of Rasulullah and your religion on this earth. Ya Allah, keep our children on the upright path of Islam. Ya Allah, those amongst our families and communities suffering through sickness and disease, by the wasila of Sayyidah Zahra, give them shafa'ah. Ya Allah, we ask by the right of Sayyidah Zahra that those mu'mineen who are oppressed and suffering, give aman to the mu'mineen wherever they may be. Ya Allah, hasten the reappearance of Sahib al-Zaman. Hasten the one who Sayyidah Zahra called, that when they pressed her between the wall and the door, she called and said, "Oh my son Mahdi, why do you not come when your mother is in difficulty?" Oh Allah, with these tears in our eyes, we are waiting for that son of Zahra. We are waiting for that remainder of Zahra. We are waiting for that one that makes her the victorious one. Allah, hasten the reappearance of Sahib al-Zaman. Make us and our children from the upright supporters of Sahib al-Zaman. Matim Hussein.
Hello. I want everyone to please come here and please, I'm requesting you. बीवी फातिमा का मातम है. मौला आपको सबको सलामत रखे. अल्लाहु अकबर. हाय हाय ज़हरा, हाय हाय ज़हरा, हाय हाय ज़हरा, हाय हाय ज़हरा, हाय हाय ज़हरा. एवरीवन, हाय हाय ज़हरा, हाय हाय. हाय गुर्बत की इंतहा है, ना साया न रिदा है. ज़हरा तेरी लहद पर गुर्बत की इंतहा है, ना साया न रिदा है. ज़हरा तेरी लहद पर गुर्बत की. एवरीवन प्लीज. ना साया न रिदा है. ज़हरा चंद पत्थरों ने मिलकर महरूम लिख दिया है. चंद पत्थरों ने मिलकर महरूम लिख दिया है. ज़हरा तेरी लहद पर गुर्बत की इंतहा है, ना साया न रिदा है. ज़हरा तेरी लहद पर गुर्बत की इंतहा. मौला आप सब लोग को सलामत रखे. मौला प्लीज. हाय हाय. तीरों बड़ी खबा थी, खूनों भरी रिदा थी. जो शाम से बचा था ज़ैनब ने रख दिया है. ज़हरा तेरी लहद पर गुर्बत की इंतहा है, ना साया न रिदा है. ज़हरा तेरी लहद पर. एवरीवन, हाय हाय. गुर्बत की इंतहा है, ना साया न रिदा है. ज़हरा तेरी लहद पर. जिंदान की घुटन से हर लाश बेकफन से आबिद ने जो संभाला वो आंसू गिर पड़ा है. ज़हरा तेरी लहद पर गुर्बत की इंतहा है, ना साया न रिदा है. ज़हरा तेरी تیری لحد پر غربت کی انتہا ہے،
سایہ ناریدہ ہے زہرا تیری لحد پر،
ہائے ہائے غربت کی انتہا،
سایہ ناریدہ ہے زہرا تیری لحد پر،
ہائے غربت کی انتہا ہے، ناسایہ ناردا ہے نہرا، اے میری بی بی، اے میری بی بی، تیرے در پہ استقاضا ہے،
میری شہزادی جنازہ
ہے یا زہرا، یا ہے یا زہرا، یا زہرا، اے میری بی بی استقاضا ہے تیرا ممنوع،
میری شہزادی جہاں سائے
یا زہرا،
یا زہرا
یا زہرا،
یا زہرا، تو ہمیں حفظ اور رما دے دے، اپنی چادر کا سائے دے دے، تیری قدرت میں کیا نہیں بی بی، تو جسے چاہے دو جہاں دے دے، یا زہرا، یا زہرا، یا زہرا، یا زہرا، یا زہرا، یا زہرا، قرض مقروض کا ادا کر دے، مفلسوں کا نصیب وا کر دے، جن کی گودی بڑی نہیں بی بی، ان کو اولاد تو عطا کر دے، یا زہرا، یا زہرا،
زہرا، یا زہرا،
یا زہرا، یا زہرا، فرش مجلس پہ اور مسلح پر ہر جواں کے ہے رہا ہے رو رو کر، ہم رہے نہ رہے مگر بی بی، تا قیامت رہے غم سرور، یا زہرا، یا زہرا، یا زہرا، یا زہرا، یا زہرا، ان شہیدوں کا یہ مقدر ہے، صاحبہ ان کا تیری چادر ہے، ان کے سینوں پہ آئی میں بی بی، داغ قیامت نشان ہے در ہے، یا زہرا،
یا زہرا، سب مل کے ہائے یا زہرا، یا زہرا و زہرا فاطمہ زہرا، زہرا فاطمہ زہرا بنت محمد، فاطمہ زہرا، زہرا
فاطمہ زہرا بنت محمد فاطمہ زہرا زہرا فاطمہ زہرا عرض بکی اے غم کی زمین وہ حال تباہی وہ غم کی گھری اے عرض بکی اے غم کی زمین وہ حال تباہی وہ غم کی گھری ویرا پرا ہے تربت زہرا زہرا فاطمہ زہرا ویرا پرا ہے تربت زہرا زہرا فاطمہ زہرا نہ بھولیں گے ہم وہ ظلم و ستم اے بنت رسول جناب بطول نہ بھولیں گے ہم وہ ظلم و ستم اے بنت رسول جناب بطول کرب و بلا میں روتی ہے زہرا زہرا فاطمہ زہرا کرب و بلا میں روتی ہے زہرا 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 کس کس کو سنبھالے گی مادر بطول تڑپتا رہی ہے شبیہ رسول کس کس کو سنبھالے گی مادر بطول تڑپ ہی رہا ہے شبیہ رسول کرب و بلا میں روتی ہے زہرا زہرا فاطمہ زہرا کرب و بلا میں روتی ہے زہرا حسین شہید کربلا واویلا حسین عباس سلم دارم چی شد واویلا حسین شہید قاسم دامادم چی شد واویلا حسین شہید لا اصغر شیر خارم چی شد واویلا حسین سورة البارقة الفاتحة
السلام عليك يا رسول الله يا محمد بن عبد الله السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى أم المؤمنين السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي المجتبى السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي الشهيد بكربلاء السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين زين العابدين السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الباقر السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر الكاظم السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى الرضا السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الجواد السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد الهادي السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي العسكري السلام عليك يا حجة الله يا ابن الحسن يا صاحب الزمان السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان ورحمة الله وبركاته بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.